So he went, okay. So we start at 8 in the evening, work through, 8 in the morning. He arrives, we've got the new script. We go, what do you think? So he reads it, absolute silence. Finishes it and go, what do you think? He goes, no, I think we should stay with the one we've got. And we said, but this one's funny. And he went, no. He said, and anyway, I think giving the guys a new script at this late stage would just confuse them. And we said, but why didn't you say that last night? Because we wouldn't have written it. And he said, no, I think we'll just go with the script we've got. So we said, well, look, there's nothing for us really to do now. You won't take the script. How about we just read, let's have a read through and see what the cast think. And he goes, no. So we go, okay, well, there's nothing for us to do. We're just going to get the plane home. So we go back to the hotel, and Rob had bought a couple of bottles of champagne on his way out, anticipating there'd be something to celebrate, mad fool. So Rob goes, these bottles of champagne are never going to be drunk out of any celebration reasons. Let's go drink them now. We'll celebrate the fact that, yeah, actually, we probably did a pretty good job, but, no one will get to see it. So we drink certainly one bottle, and I think we were halfway down the second one. And I go, this is just so annoying, because we're going to go the way that all Brit writers go when they come out to do the sitcom. They all come back with the tails between the legs, and they're all ruined. We started to talk about the Fawlty Towers that was done and how they dropped Basil Fawlty because that was the reason why Fawlty Towers wasn't working. So they dropped Basil Fawlty. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I said, look, we will go back. We'll fight for this.
Do not forsake me, oh my darling. I only know I must be brave, for I must face a man who hates me.
We can do this. Let's at least get the cast to read it. And if the cast hate it, then okay. So we went back and said, hi, guys, to the cast. There's a new script. And they all went, no. Oh, yeah, we did a new script last night. Well, where is it? Oh, no, you're not allowed to read it. You're not allowed to read it? No, you can't read it. What's it like? Oh, it's better than the one you're doing now. And, of course, just nuggets of, and then the cast went, there's another script, we want to read it.
And then they slipped the script under our doors early that morning. And one by one, the cast members came in, because they kind of turned to me as being the person who knew the poor saps, as if I knew anything. God, say, Robert, what do we do? This script's much better. And I went, well, should we see if we can do that one then? Because it was just instantly transformed, and it was very, very funny. It had all the kind of American references and jokes in, but it was just tighter. It was about 10 pages shorter, for one thing. It was tighter. It had the plot in it the way it should be. It all worked really well.
So anyway, the guy who laughs at every line, in every rehearsal, in every read-through, every time, is given a copy of our script, which he reads absolutely silently. And to be fair to him, he was not laughing because he didn't know which way it was going to go. Because it was like, whose side am I on? Who's going to win this? Don't know. So he went, who knows which is better? I mean, they're both terrific. What should we do?
And I think we just sat down with the director. And he said, I realise some of you may have seen a different script that Robin took. And he went, yeah, well, what's the general feeling? Would we like to do that? Everybody's hands up. Okay. Threw the old script out and we did the new one.
And then from that point on, various things happened to prevent the new script being shot. The whole opening few scenes, which addressed a lot of the major problems that were wrong with the American pilot, weren't shot for various reasons that didn't really make sense at the time. And so what we wound up with was something much closer to the original script than the one that we did, although at that point it looked like we'd triumphed, but it was not to be.
If you're from the future, where am I?
Oh, you're out golfing.
People were relatively optimistic at the end that there was going to be a series. NBC were going, oh yeah, there's going to be a series. There's a lot of kind of celebrations and stuff. There was one awful moment when one of the producers, who shall be nameless, was going, we're going to be so rich, guys, we're going to be so, so rich. And it was sort of so nauseating. Like, so that's why we're doing this, is it, to be rich?
Well, I finished the pilot and basically came back to England and waited.
And we were invited back to try and fix it, except we were given no budget. It was literally a few $1,000s to work in a shed. And this was an in-house thing. This was not intended to be stolen and used in fan conventions. This was supposed to be just for NBC.
Because they were trying to get Chris to do it as well. After they were on the phone kept trying to get Chris to do it as well.
I was sort of second wave approach, I think Robert was already over there and they'd sort of cast the crew and everything. But then I got this call to say that they couldn't find an American actor with a low enough opinion of himself to be able to convincingly portray Rimmer. So, I thought, if they want me to go over there, yes. But of course I was thinking the very quaint, old-fashioned way of, I'll pop over there and see them and then I'll pop back to England and have a pint in my local pub and think, do I want to do this? But no. As soon as you set foot on the plane, basically, at Heathrow or wherever, that's it.
At the time, I think Chris was ill-advised. Chris's fear of, I have to sign a deal, get on the plane, and then put in this series that I hate, and I'm in, American comedy prison for 6 years, was never going to materialise. What was much more likely to happen was he would get paid a lot of money for doing a pilot that wouldn't happen. If the pilot happened and went to a series, it would run 5-6 shows and then it would get axed. If it went for 5-6 seasons, he's one of the most famous people in America because we would be there with the X-Files and Friends and all those shows.
It doesn't loom in my mind as being a big decision now, but at the time, I was just advised by my agent to really be careful about, going over there to do the pilot, because if it does do quite well, and you're not on an amazing deal, for example, then you've got to come back to England and you've got to start again almost,
And also what had happened when we came back to reshoot and do that little bit of recasting is all the best people had been taken off and they were in their new series, and then basically as those crashed and burned, they would become available again, but at that point they hadn't crashed and burned. So there was a limited talent pool at that point.
Hi, buddy.
We also tried to get Danny, but he was in Carmen Jones at the Old Vic. So we turned the cat into a woman and cast Terry Farrell. It was a kind of a completely different kind of cat to Danny's.
It was White Dwarf. The cat was a white woman. Lister was a 6'4", blonde-haired, brown-eyed sex god. And it was like, in the future, it was like black people, someone's planning on us not being here.
When we replaced Hinton Battle with Terry Farrell, that wasn't a decision on, hey, let's try and make the cast as white as possible. That was the decision on, we can't find anyone as good as Danny of any colour or description, but we can do a new character with a female and have a new chemistry, and the best person we found is Terry Farrell. And we weren't going, today we have, let's see, the black people and then the white people and the yellow people. That was just, it was cast, always will be cast, and who's the best person you can get.
The reasons behind it not happening who knows? I mean, it's a mystery. But at that time, I know that NBC, who it would have been for, made, I don't know how many pilots. They make a lot. They made a lot of pilots, but they made 3 pilots in their own studios, at the NBC studios in Hollywood. And strange enough, all 3 of those were picked up and run with. And NBC had really been pressuring Rob and Doug to make the series at the NBC studios. And for, I'm sure, really good reasons, they chose to do it at Universal. So it was a kind of co-production and all, the ins and outs of it are very complex, and I was never party to that. I did see lots of men in suits in the studio would come around and tell me I was fantastic. So I was going, thank you. I don't know who any of them were. They're probably the most powerful men in American television. And I was like, hello.
I'm glad it didn't work anyway, and the guys are really upset it didn't work. So we're both pulling from different different ends of the rope here, you know, because if it had worked, there wouldn't have been a Series 6, 7 or 8, you know what I mean? They would have all gone to America and become multimillionaires, and me and Danny would have been on the dole.
I actually saw the American pilots at a convention. That's the only time I saw them. I've actually got one now. I've got a DVD of 2 American pilots that I bought at a convention. I did get a discount, but I had to buy them. They weren't much better than I thought they'd be because they'd been so slagged off by the fans that I thought, God, they're going to be really dreadful. But they weren't Red Dwarf, but they were a different thing.
I mean, I was in a convention in America, and some guy shouted out to me in question and answer. He said, you know, what did I think of the American pilot? Because everybody's seen it. Everybody who's a Red Dwarf fan has seen the American pilot. And, you know, unfortunately, the questions always come back to the actors. You know, never going to go to the Hollywood guys who made the decisions. And so I said, look, you guys are Americans. What did you think about it? And they said they hated it. It's a very curious English thing, Red Dwarf, you know.
Lister and Rimmer, particularly, of course, you know, are very strong English types, you know, British types.
It's also very rooted in a kind of class system as well, you know. Rimmer is aspiring to be sort of officer class, and Lister's just a grease monkey, sort of working class, and that doesn't quite translate into American, really, you know.
America doesn't have a class system. Yeah, it does. The people who appear on the Jerry Springer show are the same people as the kind of people who appear on Friends. There is a class system everywhere. We know whether it's money. I mean, you don't have to, just because you don't have the royal family doesn't mean you don't have a class system. Also, you take a look at the first Alien film with those 2 guys who were wanting pay rises, and they weren't on the same crew rates as the rest of the guys on that ship. There was a class system right there.
It's quite funny when there are some lines exactly the same. You go, oh my God, it is Red Dwarf, because you do think you're watching something different.
It was very clean. There was no grunge in it. It was, you know, there was no curry stains, no custard, no, just very homogenised, very sort of American. I think the British people sort of, you know, have already taken us to heart, so I don't have to worry about them.
In the end, I'm really glad I did the pilot because it was enormous fun and an extraordinary experience to do that.
Robert actually told me the story. He said he was sitting there one day with Hinton and he's like looking a little bit down. And Robert goes to him, you know, you all right? And he goes, yeah, you know, it's just, you know, how's it going kind of thing. And he's, oh, okay, you know, it's just that the other guy was so good. And I'm like, man, doesn't matter. Now, Hinton Battle has given me the green light.
I had a different mask on then in those days, with a different mouth, which meant I could eat humanoid food, which is an extraordinary experience. And in America, they give you a lot of food on a big table. It goes on forever. And it's called craft services, and there's lots of men who come and replenish your Danish pastries and your nuts and your Coke. And you just spend all day eating. And then they say, would you mind coming to say a line? And you say, well, I'll just finish this croissant. And I'll just maybe take a shower, and then I'll talk to one of my many agents. And then I'll wander over in my limousine to the studio and say one line, and then I'll go home. And for that, I'm paid $43,000. Yes, I enjoyed it. 1 week.